St. Mark's, wherever you are, whoever you're watching this with. Hello, nice to see you. Oh, I can't see, I say that every time. I hope that however your week has been, that this next few moments together feels good and safe and kind and fun. That as we continue to dive into the adventure of following Jesus together, that it feels good to do that with other people from the village. Some of us have had brilliant weeks, and some of us have had really heavy weeks around the village. And so after we've spent some time talking together today, let's make sure we pray for each other and hear each other and give all our cares to Jesus. In a moment, we're going to jump into our normal fun stuff. But before we do that, I want to take an opportunity to brag about and to let you know about the brilliant stuff that St. Mark's Meals are up to. Cast your mind back, if you can, to before COVID. Nina was doing an amazing job of running St. Mark's Meals out of this room and our garage, and serving about 30 schools across the city. We had to shut down during COVID, and then we reopened, and after that things just got bigger and it's snowballed. I've lost count. I think it's 84, it may be 85. That number is probably out of date by now. I think 85 partners, schools, children's centres, family centres, other churches, those kind of places are partnering with us across the city. 85 places have a store cupboard in them that are giving away meals to children that otherwise would go hungry that evening. That's fantastic. But I'm aware, my bad, that because we're so disparate now and we meet in different places, we don't get to see everything all the time, and it sometimes doesn't feel like it's our thing. And so we want to kind of correct that and give everybody an opportunity to feel like you own a bit more of St. Mark's Meals over the next term, because you do, and you started it and you planted it and you've sown into it and you've prayed for it, and some of us have volunteered for it. And so each week, or lots of weeks, some of the weeks, we'll have an update from the team, from Rachel and Angie, about what's going on, so that you feel like you know a little bit more about what's going on. And it starts with update number 1.
Hello, St. Mark's.
Hello.
A little update from the food bank. We're here at the food bank. It's a bit chilly. You were in packing last week.
Yes, pack and go is what we call it now.
Yeah, so we've got loads of food in. You can see on our shelves, lots of food in. But look down here. This is where we. Oh, you can't see. This is where we store the boxes in these shelves underneath, and you can see there are just not that many boxes because we pack and they go out. We're about to deliver 42 boxes right now. Bye.
If you want to keep up to date, then the best thing to do is to go on the St. Mark's Meals web page on our website, how many W's is that? stmarksmk.com/meals. Click on the little button that says subscribe to the newsletter. Don't worry, they're not going to spam you. But once in a little while, once a half term, something like that, you'll get an amazing newsletter that tells you everything that's going on, so that you can pray and support if you've got time to volunteer as well. Next weekend, we are not doing this, we're doing something else. We're meeting on Saturday evening round at the vicarage, because we know, and we're about to find out even more, that the pace of Sabbath and grace and joy and delight is important. So we're going to have a bring and share meal around here next Saturday evening. Could be the most delightfully connected buffet table that you've ever come across. Or it might be the most disconnected smorgasbord of stuff that you've ever considered could be in one room together. It entirely depends on what you bring. So bring something. Could be a first course, could be a dessert, doesn't matter. Bring something and we'll all share it. It will go on the buffet table. We will have communion together. We will pray together. We will cheer each other on, and we will eat together. And then we will launch ourselves into a Sabbath, into a Sunday of rest and play. I will cook rice, and I will cook garlic bread, and I will get some jugs of water. Everything else is in your hands. So book on the website. If you can do it before Wednesday, it's super helps with planning. That would be great. The following weekend, the 23rd, is your opportunity to get your hands on this beauty. Can you be St. Mark's 10-pin bowling champion 2022? Again, book on the website so we can book the right number of lanes. There's loads of opportunities to hang out and be together as disciples everywhere. All that said, let's jump in with today's story from the doctor.
Hello! Alright, now, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm just going to say things and hopefully it'll be good. I've got a hair in my mouth, but I'm going to keep talking because this is a perfect example of what I've been struggling with all day. It's Monday afternoon and I've been trying to do this video for some time, but I keep cutting because I make tiny little mistakes and I'm trying to get the perfect take. So apologies for this preamble, but this is going to be a bit messy, but please just go with it. Thank you for letting me do this. Right, so we're talking about, there's a story in Luke chapter 6, and I'm going to tell you what happens. So basically, it's the Sabbath, right? And Jesus is going through the cornfields with his disciples, right? And some of his disciples start picking up the ears of corn, rubbing them in their hands and eating the grain. And some of the Pharisees asked, "What are you doing? What's unlawful to do on the Sabbath?" Jesus answered, and he says, "Have you never heard that story about David? You know David, we all agree he's a legend. He, one time him and his mates were hungry and they went into the temple and there was consecrated bread that you're not supposed to eat. He ate it. You know?" Jesus tells that story to the Pharisees. And then he says, "The Son of Man is Lord of the Sabbath." And then on another Sabbath, he went into a synagogue and he was teaching, and there was a man there whose right hand was shriveled. I'm guessing that's some kind of disability that they're bad at explaining in the Bible. And the Pharisees and teachers of the law were looking for a reason to accuse Jesus. So they watched him closely to see if he would heal on the Sabbath. And Jesus knew what they were thinking. And he said to the man with the hand, "Get up, stand in front of everyone." Bit embarrassing. So he stood up in front of everyone, and Jesus said to him, "I ask you, which is lawful on the Sabbath, to do good or to do evil, to save life or to destroy it?" He looked round at them all, and then he said to the man, "Stretch out your hand." And he did. And he was like miraculously healed. But the Pharisees and the teachers of the law were furious and began to discuss with one another what they might do to Jesus. So this seems to be about rules, obeying rules, breaking rules, and it's also around the Sabbath, which is interesting. It's something we've been talking about a lot over the years, haven't we? Just this idea of that it's not necessarily keeping a Sunday holy for church things, or as was the Jewish tradition in the Bible, keeping that, I think it was a Saturday Sabbath where you strictly did absolutely zero work. But it's about making time for rest, for stillness, to connect with God in your week, in your day, whatever, to come away from the stresses and pressures of life, to come away from the rat race, to reject those ideas, and to spend time connecting with God. So the story that I'm about to tell you is 100% true. My Sabbath is that I observe religiously is every Tuesday morning between the hours of 9 and 11:35. I like to go to a quiet place, uninterrupted, and spend time trying to connect with myself and with God. And one day, just as I was settling down to meditate, this happened. Ah! Oh. Yeah, sorry, mate. I'd love to help, but I'm actually just meditating. Oh, I'm sure I'll be fine. I'm all right. Sorry, I'm just entering a state of blissful union with God and nature and all things. So I'm no longer concerned with the material universe, concerned with the inner truths, deep spiritual things. Oh man, my boss is going to kill me. I can't miss work. Happiness does not consist in the abundance of wealth and possessions. Why do you labour for that which is not bread, and why do you toil after that which will not satisfy? Might still make it, but I'm going to be late. Time's infinite. There's no late or early. There's only the present. Here mate, you don't have a car, do you? Could you give me a lift? My journey is a spiritual one and my vehicle is prayer. I'm travelling inward towards the kingdom of heaven. Oh man, I'm going to have to carry it the whole way home. His yoke is easy and his burden is light. If you're weary, he will give you rest for your soul. Is he still talking? So that was that. What I think Jesus is saying is that the rules can be all good and well, but sometimes we can lose sight of the purpose of the rules and start to become a slave to the rules. I think it's interesting to think of the reactions of the people when Jesus behaved how he behaved in the synagogue on the Sabbath. Like, I'm sure even the disciples would have been well aware of all the rules and regulations of what you can and can't do on the Sabbath. So even they would have been unsettled, I'm sure, and felt like, you can't do that, you're not supposed to do that. That's not following the rules. And I can imagine the debate, a very nuanced debate amongst the Pharisees or the teachers or people maybe sympathising with Jesus, but like, oh well, yeah, and obviously it was good, but there's a time and a place for that, so it's not really right to do. Whereas like Jesus was remarkably like simplistic, and just saying, what are we trying to do here? Good or evil? Are we trying to save life or destroy life? And I think Jesus is appealing to what's in the Pharisees and the teachers that's good, like that their heart is good, that he's saying, we know what's right. We know what's good. We know what the right thing to do here is, but we've become blinded by these laws that we've created. We've lost sight of the core values. The core value that Jesus always comes back to is love. There's another time that Jesus is asked specifically about rules. What's the best rule? What's the greatest commandment? He's asked. And he says, love. Love God and love other people. So love's the point. Love's the point of life. It's the point of following Jesus. And it's not a rule or a law, is it? What is love? What is it we're being asked to do, guided towards as a value? It's a feeling, it's an emotion, it's care. It's something that we can't legislate for, that we can't have rules for. But it's something that we know within ourselves. And I think that we live by rules all the time, or much of the time. Whether it's written rules or rules that are implied. So you can think about different contexts, like in work or school, there's obviously rules that we know. You can't do this, you must wear that, or you can't do this, or you have to do that. And also ones that are implied, like the culture, that you just know, oh, we shouldn't do that, or if I did that, that would go down badly. Or ones that we've got from childhood. So like values and rules that we've got from our parents. Loads that'll be helpful, but some that'll be attitudes that'll be actually a hindrance now to us, that we've internalized unhelpfully. Like, I can think of stuff for myself whether it's like friendship groups or from my parents at the time, living in the culture that they were living in at the time, and again trying to do the best they could. But rules that I feel like I've internalized, like don't be emotional, don't be sensitive, don't have feelings, boys don't cry, that kind of stuff. Which is hard to break from. And I think church rules are a big one. Maybe we've been brought up in different churches or used to belong to different churches that had written rules or rules that were expectations that were unwritten. Whether it's what you're supposed to believe or how you're supposed to act or what you can and can't do. And that produces a lot of judgment at times. And that can, instead of saving life, that can destroy life. It can destroy our spiritual life or our emotional and mental life. And Jesus is bringing us back to a guiding principle of doing good, of following love rather than following rules. Because I think about my church tradition as well that I grew up in, and there was rules around women and girls couldn't lead because of a couple of verses in the Bible that they then made rules and traditions out of. Whereas I now think that what would happen if we were following the guide of love, the value of love, the rule of love? What brings life and love and flourishing? And what brings oppression and exclusion? I just think things would be transformed if we weren't bound by certain rules and traditions and we were freed to be guided by love. So I'll finish with this. It's unsettling to let go of rules. It's comforting to have something to hold on to that we feel we can kind of pin ourselves to. So we can either be like, oh, I'm okay. I have a sense of self-esteem and pride because I know that I've done right. I've kept the rules. I've done this stuff. I know I'm okay. Or on the other side, you can still maintain those rules, but feel like, more how I've felt often, as, well, I'm useless. Because I can't keep the rules. I keep failing from those rules. I've messed up on those rules. So I don't have a sense of self-esteem, or don't have a good sense of self-worth, because I've not met that standard. And there's an amazing story in Luke chapter 15 about two sons that personify those two positions. One who feels good about himself because he's kept the rules, and one who feels terrible about himself because he's not kept the rules. And the point of the story is that they're both held by love, by God. They're loved because they're loved, because God is love. And I think from that place we can let go of the need for rules and that security, and hold on to the security that comes from being loved by God and the freedom to love others. And I think from that place, then we as a group and as a community can wrestle with really complex and difficult ideas if we're guided by love. So then, let's chat about examples. What examples can you think of where rules have become a hindrance rather than a help? Any stuff from school or work where you think, that's mad, that rule in fact hurts people or makes life difficult for people, when clearly it was designed, hopefully in the first place, as something that was sensible. And then also, more difficultly, what rules have we internalized that we need to break away from and question? Easy as that.